You don't tell soldiers where to die. The words hang in the war room like smoke after gunfire. Lieutenant Jack Mercer's fist is already clenched, knuckles white against the polished oak table scattered with tactical maps and satellite images. The room feels smaller than it is. 42 personnel packed into a space built for 30, all eyes locked on the woman standing near the projection screen. She wears no uniform, no rank insignia, just dark slacks, a plain gray button-down, and a contractor badge clipped to her belt that reads, Analyst, Civilian. Her name is Aria Thorne, and in exactly 14 seconds, Lieutenant Mercer is going to make the biggest mistake of his career. But right now, nobody knows that yet. The Brussels morning filters through reinforced windows, casting pale October light across maps of Eastern Europe. NATO Joint Command has been in crisis mode for 72 hours straight. Satellite intel showing troop movements near the Polish border, supply chain disruptions, communication blackouts in 3 sectors. The room smells like burnt coffee and tension. Every chair is occupied. Staff officers lean against walls. A 2-star general sits at the head of the table, fingers steepled, waiting. Aria had been presenting for exactly 9 minutes when Mercer interrupted. She'd been explaining Alpha Team's planned route through the Zulu corridor, a bridge crossing that looked clean on paper but showed 3 choke points where an ambush could turn routine into catastrophe. Her voice had been steady, methodical, professional. She'd used a tactical pointer to trace the road, highlight the terrain, mark the vulnerability windows. And then Mercer slammed his palm on the table hard enough to make the coffee cups jump. "You're a desk analyst," he says now, each word sharpened to a point. "You sit in air-conditioned rooms and push pixels around screens. You don't tell men who bleed, who fight, who carry their brothers home in pieces. You don't tell them where to die." The room goes still. Someone's pen stops mid-scratch. A laptop fan whirs in the silence. Aria doesn't flinch. She lowers the pointer slowly, deliberately, and meets his eyes across 8 feet of war planning table. Her face remains exactly as calm as it was 30 seconds ago. When she speaks, her voice carries no heat, no defensiveness, no anger. "I tell them where not to die, Lieutenant. It's the wrong answer. Or maybe it's the right one, delivered to the wrong man at the wrong time. Jack Mercer has been carrying his brother's death for 3 years, carrying it like a stone in his chest, like shrapnel that never healed. His older brother Tom had been a Navy corpsman attached to a SEAL team in Syria. October 17th, 2022, a mission that went bad in a city called Barca. 17 dead. No remains recovered for 6 of them. Tom Mercer was one of the 6. The official report listed cause as intelligence failure. Someone had provided bad coordinates, bad timing, bad assessment. The operation file had been sealed, classified, buried under layers of security clearance that Jack couldn't access. But he'd seen one name on the incident chain before the file disappeared. Lieutenant A. Thorne, SEAL Team Echo, listed as KIA, killed in action, dead, gone, supposedly. And now here stands a woman with that exact name, wearing civilian clothes, telling him how to run a tactical operation. Either she's a cruel coincidence or she's a fraud, someone using a dead operator's identity to pad a resume. Jack has spent 3 years believing it's the latter. He moves around the table, 3 long strides. Aria doesn't step back. She doesn't raise her hands. She just watches him come, and in the half-second before his fist connects with her jaw, someone in the back of the room, an older man with gray temples and a weathered face, whispers something that gets lost in the sound of impact. The punch lands clean. A sharp crack of knuckle against bone. Aria's head snaps to the side. Blood appears at the corner of her mouth, a thin crimson line that traces down to her chin. She staggers half a step, catches herself against the table edge, and then she straightens, slowly, deliberately. Her hand comes up to her mouth, fingers touching the blood. She wipes it away with 2 fingers, the motion precise and controlled, and the way she grips those fingers, thumb along the second knuckle, pressure point control, the exact positioning taught to combat medics for checking capillary response, is so automatic, so ingrained, that it doesn't register as conscious thought. She's breathing. 4 counts in, 4 counts hold, 4 counts out. The room has frozen into a tableau of shock. 42 people and not one of them moves. Admiral Cole Hawthorne, 3-star, seated at the table's head, rises halfway from his chair, mouth opening to bark an order. A security officer near the door reaches for his radio. A junior analyst in the back row has both hands pressed to her mouth. And Aria Thorne stands there, blood on her fingers, looking at Jack Mercer with eyes that hold no anger, no fear, no surprise. just a kind of terrible, patient calm. "Are you done, Lieutenant?" Her voice doesn't shake. It comes out level, each syllable weighted like a steel bar. The kind of voice that doesn't need to shout to fill a room. The kind that's been used in the dark, in the chaos, in the moment between heartbeat and action when there's no room for hesitation. Jack's breathing hard, his fist still clenched. "You don't belong here," he says, and his voice cracks just slightly on the last word. "You don't—" "Mercer." Admiral Hawthorne's command cuts through like a blade. "Stand down." Jack doesn't move. His eyes are locked on Arya, on the blood she's wiping away with that careful, clinical grip. "She cost us soldiers in Barca," he says, louder now, playing to the room. "She doesn't belong in this building. She doesn't belong in this uniform." He gestures at her civilian clothes. Or whatever the hell she's pretending to be. Arya sets the pointer down on the table. The motion is gentle, almost ceremonial. She reaches into her pocket, the inside pocket of her button-down, left side, and pulls out a small square of folded cloth. She unfolds it once, twice, revealing a bandage underneath, the kind with adhesive edges and a gauze center. She presses it against the cut on her lip. The way she does it, one hand stabilizing her jaw, the other applying pressure at the exact angle to minimize swelling, is textbook field first aid. Not "I took a CPR class first aid," the kind you learn when seconds matter and the nearest hospital is a helicopter ride through hostile territory. Near the back of the room, the older man with gray temples, Staff Sergeant Davis, retired Special Forces, now working as a tactical consultant, leans forward slightly in his chair. His eyes narrow. He's watching Arya's hands, watching the way she holds herself, the bladed stance she's adopted without seeming to think about it, weight on the balls of her feet, shoulders angled to present a smaller target profile. "That's not civilian training," Davis murmurs to the analyst sitting next to him. But his voice is too quiet to carry, and the room's attention is elsewhere. Admiral Hawthorne rounds the table, moving toward Jack with the kind of controlled fury that comes from 30 years of command. "Lieutenant Mercer, you will remove yourself from this room immediately, and you will report to my office in 10 minutes. That is a direct order." "Sir," Jack starts, but Hawthorne's expression stops him cold. "Now, Lieutenant." Jack's jaw works. He looks at Arya one more time. She's still standing there, bandage pressed to her mouth, face unreadable, and then he turns and walks toward the door. His footsteps echo on the tile floor. The door closes behind him with a heavy click that sounds too much like finality. The room exhales. Conversations start in low murmurs. Someone offers Arya a chair. She shakes her head, still standing, still calm. She folds the bandage carefully and tucks it back into her pocket. The bleeding has already stopped. Admiral Hawthorne approaches her, and there's something in his face. Concern, yes, but underneath it something else. Something that might be worry. "Miss Thorne," he says quietly, "I apologize for—" "It's fine, Admiral." Her voice is steady. "I've had worse. That's not the point." He glances around the room, noting the stares, the whispers. "This meeting is over. Everyone out except command staff. Now." The room begins to empty. Analysts gather laptops and briefing folders. Officers file out in a stream of subdued conversation. Davis lingers near the back, making a show of organizing papers while his eyes stay fixed on Arya. She notices him watching, a quick flicker of eye contact, but gives no other acknowledgement. When only 6 people remain, Hawthorne, Arya, 2 senior staff officers, a JAG representative, and Davis, who's somehow managed not to be dismissed, the Admiral turns back to Arya. "You should file an incident report," he says. "Assault on a contractor is a serious matter." "I don't think that's necessary." "I'm afraid I do." Hawthorne's tone shifts, becomes more formal. "Lieutenant Mercer has made serious allegations about your credentials and your involvement in Operation Barca. Given the circumstances, I'm going to have to ask you to take administrative leave pending an investigation." Something flickers across Arya's face, not surprise, something closer to recognition, like a chess player seeing a move she'd already anticipated. "An investigation into what exactly?" "Your identity, your background." Hawthorne's voice drops lower. "Your right to be in this facility with access to classified briefings." One of the staff officers, a colonel with infantry tabs, steps forward, holding out his hand. "Your badge, please." Arya looks at the extended hand. She doesn't move to comply. "Admiral, with respect, my credentials were verified when I was contracted 6 months ago. Nothing has changed." A man struck you in my war room because he believes you're using a dead operator's identity, Hawthorne says, and now there's steel in his voice. Until we can verify beyond doubt that you are who you claim to be, I cannot allow you access to sensitive operations. Your badge, Miss Thorne. The room holds its breath. Davis has stopped even pretending to organize papers. He's watching Arya with an intensity that borders on recognition, like he's trying to place a face from an old photograph. If you've ever been underestimated, you know this feeling. That moment when someone decides you don't belong before they even know your name. Hit the like button, and let's see how she handles a room full of doubters. Arya reaches down slowly and unclips the contractor badge from her belt. She holds it for a moment, looking at the plastic card with her photo, her name, the words Analyst Civilian printed in block letters. Then she holds it out. The colonel takes it. Thank you. He signals to the security officer still waiting by the door. Please escort Miss Thorne to the exit. The security officer approaches, hand resting on his belt near the radio. He's young, maybe 25, trying to look professional while clearly uncomfortable with the situation. Ma'am, if you'll come with me. Arya doesn't move yet. She's looking at Admiral Hawthorne, and there's something in her expression that makes the Admiral shift his weight. Barca, she says quietly. October 17th, 2022. You want to talk about that operation? Hawthorne's face goes carefully blank. That file is sealed. It is. She nods slowly. Sealed by your signature, Admiral. I remember the classification code. 7 Alpha Echo 9. Signed at 0800 on October 18th, less than 12 hours after the incident. Fastest seal I've ever seen on a casualty report. She pauses. Makes a person wonder what needed to be hidden so quickly. The temperature in the room drops 10 degrees. The colonel with the badge looks between Arya and Hawthorne. The JAG officer leans forward, suddenly alert. Miss Thorne, Hawthorne says, voice tight. You are out of line. Am I? She tilts her head slightly. Lieutenant Mercer called me a fraud. He thinks I'm impersonating Lieutenant A. Thorne, SEAL Team Echo, who was listed as KIA in Barca. He's not wrong to think that operator died. The file says so. Your signature says so. Another pause, deliberate as a held breath. But here's a question worth asking, Admiral. Who wrote the casualty report you signed? And did you verify the body count? Or did you just trust the numbers someone handed you? That's enough. Hawthorne's voice cracks like a whip. Security, remove her, now. The young security officer touches Arya's elbow, gentle but firm. Ma'am, please. She goes without resistance, letting herself be guided toward the door. But as she passes Davis, still standing near the back wall, watching everything with eyes that have seen too many operations go sideways, she says something, just loud enough for him to hear. Staff Sergeant, you were in Syria, 2011 through 2015, 5th Special Forces Group. Davis goes rigid. How did you... You have a specific way of standing when you're tracking an exit. Weight on your left leg. Old hip injury from Aleppo. She keeps walking, the security officer guiding her forward. I recognize the stance because I learned it from the same instructor. She's at the door now. The security officer has his hand on the handle. Arya looks back one more time, not at Hawthorne, but at the tactical map still displayed on the screen. Alpha team's route through the Zulu corridor, the 3 choke points she'd marked, the vulnerabilities she'd tried to warn them about. The bridge, she says. Zulu crossing. If you send them that route without countermeasures, you'll lose half the team in the first 10 minutes, and then you'll write another report about intelligence failure and seal another file, and 16 more families will get folded flags and condolence letters that don't explain why their sons and daughters died following bad orders. Out. Hawthorne's voice has gone quiet, which makes it somehow worse than shouting. Get her out of this room. The door opens. Arya steps through. The security officer follows, pulling the door closed behind them with a soft, final click. Inside the war room, 5 people stand in various states of tension and confusion. The JAG officer is already pulling out her phone. The colonel with Arya's badge looks at it like it might explode. And Admiral Hawthorne sinks slowly into his chair, both hands flat on the table, breathing carefully controlled. Davis finally speaks. Sir, permission to... Denied, Hawthorne snaps. Whatever you're about to say, Staff Sergeant, the answer is no. This meeting is concluded. All of you, out. Except you, Colonel. We need to talk. Davis hesitates for 5 seconds that feel longer. Then he gathers his materials and walks out, mind already racing through possibilities, through old memories, through the way Arya moved and spoke and held herself like someone who'd learned to be still under fire. In the hallway, Arya walks beside the security officer with no sign of distress. He keeps glancing at her, clearly uncertain how to handle escorting someone who just got punched in the face and then calmly called out a 3-star admiral. They pass offices and conference rooms, personnel in uniform and civilian clothes, all the machinery of military bureaucracy grinding through another crisis. They're halfway to the exit when the security officer's radio crackles. He listens to the voice, something about hold position verification required, and his expression shifts from uncomfortable to concerned. "Ma'am, I'm going to need you to wait here." Arya stops. They're standing in a side corridor near a water fountain and a set of restrooms. Morning light comes through a window at the far end. The officer's hand has moved closer to his sidearm, not touching it, just closer. "Am I being detained?" "Not detained. Just ask to wait. Someone's coming to speak with you." "Someone meaning?" Before he can answer, footsteps echo from the main corridor. Fast footsteps. Jack Mercer rounds the corner, and he's not alone. He's brought 2 other officers with him, both wearing MP armbands, and he's carrying a folder thick with printouts. The security officer straightens. "Lieutenant, I'm escorting Miss Thorne to—" "She's not leaving." Jack's voice is hard, final. He holds up the folder. "I pulled the file, the real file, A. Thorne, SEAL Team Echo." He opens it, shows a page with a photograph. "This is Lieutenant Thorne, killed in action, October 17th, 2022. Remains unrecovered due to secondary IED detonation." He points at Arya. "This woman is an imposter." Arya stands very still. The security officer looks between them, hand now definitely closer to his weapon. The 2 MPs spread out slightly, flanking positions, professional and ready. "Lieutenant," Arya says calmly, "you should look at that photograph more carefully." "I have." He steps closer, thrusting the folder toward her. "This is a woman, 5'7", brown hair, and it's dated 2022. If you were really Lieutenant Thorne, you'd be listed as active duty, not KIA. You'd have current credentials, not a contractor badge." "I had credentials," she points out. "Your Admiral just took them." "Because they're fake." Jack's breathing hard now, the fury from earlier coming back in waves. "I don't know who you are, or why you're using a dead woman's name, or how you got access to classified briefings. But you're not walking out of this building until we get answers. Real answers." One of the MPs speaks into his radio, calling for backup. The security officer looks torn between protocol and self-preservation. And Arya just stands there, blood still visible at the corner of her mouth, watching Jack with that same terrible, patient calm. "Your brother," she says quietly. "Tom Mercer, Navy corpsman attached to SEAL Team Echo. He was 29. His call sign was Doc. He had a tattoo on his left forearm, a caduceus wrapped around an anchor. He told terrible jokes during extractions to keep people calm. And the last thing he said before the secondary blast was, 'Cover's good. Get them out.'" The corridor goes silent. Jack's face drains of color. The folder slips from his fingers, pages scattering across the tile floor. "How?" His voice breaks. "How do you know that?" Arya reaches into her pocket again, different pocket this time, right side, and pulls out something small enough to fit in her palm. She holds it up where everyone can see. A dog tag, worn and scratched, hanging from a steel chain. The name stamped into the metal reads, Mercer, Thomas J. Jack stares at it. His hand comes up slowly, fingers trembling, reaching for the tag but not quite touching it. "He gave me that," Arya says. 30 seconds before he died, covering the extraction he'd told me was impossible. He pulled 3 people out of that building while I provided suppression fire. When the second IED went off, he pushed me clear and took the blast. I was listed KIA because the person who signed that report needed everyone on that mission to be dead. No survivors meant no witnesses. The MPs have stopped advancing. The security officer's hand has drifted away from his weapon. Jack's face is a complicated mess of grief and confusion and the beginning of understanding. "You were there," he whispers. "You were actually there." "I was there." She lowers the dog tag but doesn't put it away. And I stayed quiet for 3 years because I needed to know who gave the order that killed your brother and 15 other good people. I needed proof. I needed evidence that couldn't be sealed or classified or burned. She looks directly at Jack. I needed someone to punch me in front of 42 witnesses so that when the truth came out, there'd be no way to hide it again. Will she prove it? Or is this the end? Drop a comment. What would you do in this moment? Jack's legs seem to stop working properly. He leans against the wall, one hand pressed over his eyes. Holy cow, he breathes. Holy, what have I done? You did what you needed to do, Arya says, not unkindly. You defended your brother's memory. You challenged someone you thought was dishonoring the dead. That's not wrong, Lieutenant. It's just not the whole story. But the file, he gestures at the scattered pages on the floor. It says you're dead. It says what Admiral Hawthorne ordered it to say. She finally puts the dog tag away, tucking it back into her pocket with careful reverence. And in about 5 minutes, he's going to realize I just forced his hand in front of a room full of witnesses. He's going to try to shut this down, classify it deeper, maybe even have me arrested on some manufactured charge, which is why I need you to do something for me. Jack looks up, still shaking. What? I need you to stall him, keep him in that war room, buy me 30 minutes. For what? To pull the evidence I've been building for 3 years, every meeting, every decision, every lie he's told while wearing that uniform. I need time to get it into the system where he can't delete it. She glances at the MPs, at the security officer. And I need you to decide whether you want justice for your brother or whether you want revenge on the woman who couldn't save him. The corridor feels like it's holding its breath. Jack pushes off the wall, stands straighter. His eyes are red, but his jaw is set. What do you need me to do? Arya allows herself a small, grim smile. Go back to the war room. Tell Hawthorne you've detained me for questioning. Tell him the MPs are processing the arrest and it'll take at least 45 minutes for the paperwork. Tell him anything that keeps him in that room and off his communication devices. He'll check. He'll call security. He will, which is why... She turns to the security officer. You're going to tell him I'm in holding. You're going to confirm the detainment. You're going to lie to a 3-star admiral for someone you just met. The security officer looks terrified. Ma'am, I can't... You saw him take my credentials, Arya says. You heard him order my removal based on allegations from a man who just committed assault. You're smart enough to know something's wrong here. So the question is whether you want to be remembered as the guy who helped cover up a war crime or the guy who made sure the truth survived long enough to matter. The officer's Adam's apple bobs. His hand goes to his radio, hovers there. Then he nods just once. One of the MPs, older, with sergeant stripes, speaks up. And us? You saw me hand Lieutenant Mercer something, a personal effect belonging to his deceased brother. You're giving us 5 minutes to discuss family matters before you complete the detainment process. That's not against regulation. That's human decency. The MPs exchange glances. The sergeant nods slowly. Jack is already moving toward the main corridor. I'll keep him busy. But if you're lying, if you're not who you say you are, then Tom died for nothing, Arya finishes. And I've spent 3 years building an identity for no reason. But if I'm telling the truth, Lieutenant, then in 30 minutes, the man who killed your brother is going to find out that ghosts can file reports. Jack hesitates one more second, searching her face for something. Truth, maybe, or trustworthiness, or just the reflection of his brother in her eyes. Whatever he finds there must be enough, because he turns and runs back toward the war room. The security officer watches him go, then looks at Arya. You have 30 minutes. After that, I can't help you. The system will flag the discrepancy and I'll be in violation. 25 is enough. She's already moving down the corridor, not running, but walking with purpose. The MPs fall in behind her, escort formation, making it look official enough that nobody questions it. They pass administrative offices, a break room, a secured entrance to the communications wing. Arya stops at a door marked Contractor Support Services Badge Issue. She pulls out a key card, not the contractor badge that was confiscated, something else, something she's kept hidden, and swipes it through the reader. The light flashes green. The door unlocks. The Sergeant MP raises an eyebrow. Contractors aren't supposed to have access there. I'm not a contractor, Arya says simply and pushes through the door. Inside is a small office with 3 workstations and a secure file server. She goes straight to the terminal in the back, logs in with credentials that make the system prompt for additional verification. She provides it, fingerprint, retinal scan, a 16-digit authorization code she types without hesitation. The screen loads. Access granted, secure operations database. She navigates through layers of security, pulling up files that have been sealed for 3 years. Operation Barca, SEAL Team Echo, casualty reports, command authorization chains, communication logs, UAV footage. Every piece of evidence she's spent 3 years quietly, carefully, legally gathering while pretending to be a civilian analyst. She copies everything to a secure partition, encrypts it with a key that only 2 people have access to, her and someone at JAG who's been waiting for this exact moment, and initiates the transfer. Upload initiated. Estimated time, 22 minutes. She leans back, watching the progress bar crawl across the screen, and for the first time since Jack Mercer punched her, something like emotion crosses her face. Not relief, not satisfaction, just exhaustion. The kind that comes from carrying a weight for so long that you've forgotten what it feels like to stand up straight. Back in the war room, Jack Mercer stands at attention while Admiral Hawthorne reads him a lecture about conduct and discipline and the chain of command. The Admiral is furious, pacing behind his chair, voice clipped and cold. "You struck a civilian contractor in my war room, Lieutenant, in front of 42 witnesses. Do you understand the paperwork nightmare you've just created? The potential lawsuits? The damage to this command's reputation?" "Sir, I don't care what she said or didn't say. You do not strike unarmed personnel in a secure facility. You don't strike anyone unless your life is in imminent danger, and you sure as hell don't do it during a classified briefing." Jack forces himself to stay still, stay professional. "Sir, I've detained her for questioning. MPs are processing the arrest now. It'll take at least 45 minutes for—" 45 minutes? Hawthorne stops pacing. "For what? She's a contractor. You write her up, confiscate her access, and put her on the street. This should take 10 minutes. There are complications, sir. Chain of custody for evidence. Documentation of the assault. Her allegations about Operation Barca are on record now, so we need—" "Her allegations are nonsense." Hawthorne's voice drops to something dangerous. "That operation is sealed for national security reasons. Bringing it up in an open forum was a violation of classification protocols. She should be arrested for that, not for whatever fantasy she's peddling about fake credentials. Sir, she had Lieutenant Mercer's dog tag, my brother's tag." Hawthorne goes very still. "She what?" "Tom's dog tag, the real one. Serial number matches. She knew things nobody could know unless they were there. Details about the mission, about what happened, about—" Jack's voice wavers, "about his last words." The Admiral's face does something complicated. For a moment the fury fades and something else shows through, something that might be fear, or might be guilt, or might just be the weight of command decisions that went wrong. "Where is she now?" "In holding, sir. MPs have her in the contractor wing, processing—" Hawthorne lunges for his desk phone. He dials security, waits through 3 rings that seem to last hours. "This is Admiral Hawthorne. I need a status update on the contractor detainment. The Arya Thorne case." Pause. "Yes, I'll wait." Jack watches the Admiral's face while he listens, watches the color rise, the jaw tighten, the eyes narrow. "I see. And her current location?" Another pause. "Confirm that. I want visual confirmation, not just radio check." Longer pause. "Understood. Have someone meet me there in 2 minutes." He slams the phone down, already moving toward the door. "She's not in holding. She's in contractor support services accessing the secure database. Someone gave her authorization codes." "That's impossible. You confiscated her badge." "Not her contractor badge." Hawthorne is halfway to the door. "Her operational badge. The one she's apparently had this whole time. The one that says she's exactly who she claims to be." He's gone before Jack can respond. Door swinging closed behind him. Footsteps echoing down the corridor at a near run. Jack stands alone in the war room, surrounded by maps and tactical plans and the ghost of his brother's memory, and realizes with slowly dawning certainty that Arya Thorne had been telling the truth. All of it. Back in contractor support services, the upload bar reaches 83%. Arya watches it climb, minute by minute, second by second. The MPs are stationed by the door, watching the corridor, ready to buy her whatever time they can. "Company coming," the sergeant says quietly. Heavy footsteps, multiple personnel. Arya doesn't look up from the screen. 86%. "How long?" 30 seconds, maybe less. "Not yet, Lieutenant," she murmurs to herself. echoing what she'd said in the war room. Not yet. The footsteps get louder. Voices in the corridor, sharp and commanding. Someone's barking orders. The door handle rattles. 91%. The door swings open. Admiral Hawthorne fills the doorway, flanked by 2 more MPs and a security supervisor. He sees Arya at the terminal, sees the progress bar on screen, and his face goes through several expressions in rapid succession before settling on cold fury. Step away from that computer. Now! Arya's finger hovers over the keyboard. 94%. Almost done, Admiral. I said step away. That's a direct order. You can't give me orders. She still doesn't look at him. 97%. I'm not under your command. I'm not even in your chain. You're in my facility, accessing my systems. Your facility, my systems, my clearance, my operation. 99%. You signed my death certificate 3 years ago, sir. Dead people don't follow orders. 100%. Upload complete. Files transferred to secured JAG server. Encryption active. She logs out, stands up slowly, and finally turns to face him. The screen behind her shows nothing now but a blank desktop. Everything she needed is already gone, already safe, already beyond his ability to delete or classify or bury. It's done, she says simply. Hawthorne's face has gone white. What have you done? I've filed a report, a full report. Every communication, every decision, every lie you've told to cover up the fact that you sent SEAL Team Echo into Barco without authorization, without backup, and without a viable extraction plan. When the mission failed, you declared everyone KIA to eliminate witnesses. You falsified casualty reports. You sealed the file within 12 hours to prevent investigation. And you've spent 3 years sleeping soundly while 16 families believed their loved ones died because of intelligence failure instead of command negligence. She steps toward him, and despite the 3-star rank on his shoulder, despite the MPs flanking him, despite every regulation and protocol that says a contractor doesn't approach a flag officer like this, he steps back. I stayed quiet, Arya continues, voice still level, still controlled, because I needed you to feel safe. I needed you to think the only witness was dead and buried. I needed you comfortable enough to keep making decisions, keep giving orders, keep leaving evidence. And I needed one more thing. What? I needed someone to punch me in front of 42 witnesses. Someone who could testify under oath that when confronted about my identity, I didn't run or hide or make excuses. I stood there, I took the hit, and then I proved exactly who I am by accessing systems that only active duty operators can reach. The Admiral's hands are shaking now. You engineered this. All of it. All of it, she confirms, including the part where you just tried to stop me from uploading evidence to a JAG-secured server, which a dozen people just witnessed. That's obstruction, Admiral. Add it to the list. The room stays silent for 5 long seconds. Then Hawthorne straightens, pulls himself together with visible effort, and gestures to the MPs. Arrest her. Unauthorized access. Violation of security protocols. Theft of classified materials. Already done, sir. The Sergeant MP who helped Arya earlier steps forward, but he's not reaching for his cuffs. He's holding up his phone, showing a text message that just came through. JAG has issued an order. Commander Thorne is to be released immediately and granted full access pending investigation review. That's coming from Colonel Reed, sir, Judge Advocate General's office. Hawthorne stares at the phone like it personally betrayed him. Reed is overstepping. This is my command. With respect, Admiral, when it comes to war crimes investigation, JAG supersedes command authority. The sergeant's voice is polite but immovable. Commander Thorne is free to go. You, sir, are requested to remain available for questioning. The other MPs in the room exchange glances. The security supervisor takes a subtle step back. And Admiral Cole Hawthorne realizes, in one terrible moment of clarity, that he's lost. Arya doesn't gloat. She doesn't smile. She just walks past him toward the door, and as she does, she says quietly, Tom Mercer told me to make it count. I've been counting, Admiral. Every lie, every cover-up, every family you let suffer with half-truths and sealed files. 3 years of counting. She reaches the doorway. The corridor beyond is filling with people now. Word has spread. Everyone wants to see what happens next. Davis is there, the old Special Forces sergeant, watching with eyes that finally understand. Other analysts, other officers, other contractors who've worked alongside someone they thought was nothing more than a quiet civilian. Not yet, Lieutenant. she says again, though Jack Mercer isn't here to hear it. And then she walks out, leaving the Admiral standing in an office full of witnesses, in a building full of evidence, with 3 years of careful, patient justice finally catching up to him at last. The corridor outside Contractor Support Services feels like the eye of a storm. Arya walks through a gauntlet of stairs, some confused, some hostile, most just uncertain. Nobody tries to stop her. The MPs who helped her fall into step behind, not as captors, but as something closer to honor guard. Davis emerges from a side office, falls in beside her without asking permission. "Commander," he says quietly, testing the title. She doesn't correct him. They move through the building in a strange procession. Arya at the front, blood still visible at the corner of her mouth, stride measured and purposeful. Behind her, the 2 MPs and Davis. Behind them, a growing trail of personnel who sense something significant happening and want to witness it. By the time they reach the main corridor leading back to the war room, there are nearly 20 people following. Arya stops at a water fountain. She drinks slowly, methodically, rinsing the blood from her mouth. She wipes her face with careful precision, checks her reflection in the polished metal panel beside the fountain. Her lip is swollen, but the bleeding has stopped. She straightens her collar, buttons her sleeves to the wrist, and stands there for 10 seconds of perfect stillness. Davis watches her with increasing recognition. That stillness isn't calm, it's controlled readiness. The kind soldiers learn when waiting for contact, when every muscle is coiled, but nothing shows on the surface. "You're going back," he says. Not a question. "I'm going back." Hawthorne will have security waiting. He'll try to shut you down before you can. He already tried. The files are uploaded. JAG has everything they need. She turns to face him fully. But the people in that war room deserve to see the truth with their own eyes. 42 witnesses saw me get punched for calling out bad tactics. They deserve to know why I was really there. This could go sideways fast. It already went sideways, Staff Sergeant. Now I'm bringing it back to center. She starts walking again. The crowd follows, swelling with each corridor they traverse. Word spreads faster than their footsteps. Something's happening. Someone's making a move. The civilian analyst who got punched is heading back to confront the Admiral. Personnel emerge from offices and briefing rooms, drawn by curiosity or concern, or the simple human instinct to witness confrontation. By the time Arya reaches the war room door, there are 40 people in the corridor. The door is closed. 2 security officers stand outside, hands near weapons, expressions professional but uncertain. Arya stops 3 feet from the door. She doesn't reach for the handle. She just stands there, waiting. One of the security officers, the same young man who escorted her out earlier, shifts his weight nervously. "Ma'am, the Admiral ordered that nobody—" "I'm not nobody." Her voice carries down the corridor, loud enough for everyone to hear. "And I'm not asking permission." She reaches into her jacket, the inside pocket, left side, where she'd pulled out the bandage earlier. But this time, what she withdraws is different. A black card, matte finish, no visible markings except a magnetic strip and a small metallic chip embedded in one corner. It looks nothing like the contractor badge that was confiscated. It looks like something that shouldn't exist outside of secure facilities and operational theaters. She holds it up where both security officers can see it clearly. The young officer's eyes go wide. The older one actually takes a step back. "That's—" he starts, then stops, clearly uncertain whether he's supposed to acknowledge what he's seeing. "JSOC operator identification," Arya finishes for him. "Joint Special Operations Command, Level 1 clearance. Authorized for access to all NATO joint facilities and classified briefings up to and including eyes-only documentation." She lowers the card slightly. "Which means this door doesn't stay closed when I want it open." The older security officer reaches for his radio. "Sir, I need guidance. There's a situation at—" "Open the door," Arya says quietly. "Or I open it myself and you explain to your supervisor why you tried to obstruct a senior operator during an active investigation." The officers exchange glances. The older one makes a decision, steps aside, and opens the door. Arya walks through. The war room has changed since she left. The main tactical display is dark. Most of the personnel have been dismissed. Only a core group remains: Admiral Hawthorne at the head of the table, Colonel Reed from JAG, who must have arrived in the last 20 minutes, 3 senior staff officers, and Jack Mercer standing near the back wall looking like he's been through a psychological blender. Every head turns when Arya enters. The crowd from the corridor tries to follow, but the security officers hold them back, creating a bottleneck of witnesses who can see through the doorway but can't enter. Admiral Hawthorne rises slowly from his chair. "Commander Thorne, I believe you were instructed to remain in." "I was instructed by MPs acting on your orders," she interrupts, voice carrying across the room. "MPs who have since been countermanded by JAG. Colonel Reed, I assume you've reviewed the files I uploaded?" Colonel Reed, a woman in her 50s with steel gray hair and the bearing of someone who's prosecuted more cases than most people have read, nods curtly. "I have. Preliminary review confirms your credentials and raises substantial questions about Operation Barca command decisions." "Preliminary review based on unauthorized access," Hawthorne snaps. "She broke into secured systems, downloaded classified—" "She accessed systems using valid operator credentials that you yourself approved 3 years ago," Reed interrupts. "Credentials that were never revoked because you reported her killed in action. Dead people don't need credential revocation, do they, Admiral?" The room temperature drops. Jack straightens against the wall, suddenly very attentive. The staff officers are looking at Hawthorne with new expressions. Doubt, calculation, the beginning of distance. Arya walks to the table, to the exact spot where she stood when Jack hit her. She sets the black card down on the surface in the center of the tactical map, right over the Zulu corridor she'd been analyzing. The card sits there like a challenge, like evidence, like an accusation rendered in plastic and metal. "For the record," she says, addressing the room but looking at Hawthorne, "my name is Commander Arya Thorne. Serial number—" She recites a string of digits. "Assigned to SEAL Team Echo from 2020 through 2022. Deployed to Syria, Iraq, and classified operations in North Africa. Operational specialty in tactical analysis and forward reconnaissance. On October 17, 2022, I was part of a team sent into Barca, Syria, on an operation that was never officially authorized." She touches the card with 2 fingers, sliding it slightly toward Hawthorne. "This card proves my identity, but you already knew who I was, Admiral. You knew the moment I walked into this facility 6 months ago. You knew because you personally authorized my contractor cover identity. You knew because you needed someone to analyze tactical situations without raising questions about why a supposedly dead SEAL was giving strategic advice to NATO operations." Hawthorne's face has gone carefully blank. "That's an interesting narrative. Do you have proof?" "Colonel Reed has the proof. Emails from your personal server to personnel management requesting contractor placement for A. Thorne Specialist Tactical Analysis. Dates match exactly with when I approached JAG about investigating Barca. You gave me access because keeping me close was safer than having me work independently. You could monitor what I saw, what I reported, who I talked to." She pauses, letting that sink in. "What you didn't anticipate was that I'd use the access to build a case. Every meeting where you made decisions based on flawed assumptions, every time you dismissed field intelligence in favor of political convenience, every shortcut you took that put soldiers at risk. I documented all of it, and I waited for the perfect moment to make it public." "And that moment was when?" one of the staff officers asks. "When someone hit me in front of 42 witnesses for doing my job." Arya gestures to her swollen lip. "Lieutenant Mercer thought I was a fraud. He believed A. Thorne died in Barca because that's what the official record says. He struck me because he thought I was dishonoring his brother's memory. What he actually did was create an incident so public, so documented, that Admiral Hawthorne couldn't make it disappear." Jack's voice comes from the back of the room, rough with emotion. "You used me." "I gave you the truth about what happened to Tom," Arya replies, turning to face him. "And yes, I anticipated you'd react strongly when confronted with someone using a dead operator's identity. I didn't anticipate you'd punch me, but when you did, it served the same purpose. It made this public. It forced the Admiral's hand. He had to either acknowledge my real credentials or double down on calling me a fraud. Either choice exposed him." "This is conjecture," Hawthorne says, but his voice lacks conviction. "Conspiracy theory from someone who—" "Computer," Arya interrupts, addressing the room's AI system. "Display authorization. Thorne, A. Commander. Serial." She repeats the number. "Access code Echo 779 Alpha." The main tactical display flickers to life. The NATO interface disappears, replaced by a different system, military-grade, secured, the kind of interface that only appears when someone with serious clearance is accessing sensitive files. Text appears on screen. Clearance verified. JSOC operator, access granted. Biometric confirmation required. Arya walks to the display panel and places her hand on the scanner. Light passes under her palm. A second later, her face appears on screen. Official service photo from 2022, wearing Navy working uniform, SEAL trident visible on her chest. Commander Arya Thorne, USN, SEAL Team Echo. Status, active duty, classified assignment. The room erupts in gasps, whispers, shocked exclamations. Every person present is staring at the screen, then at Arya, then back at the screen. The resemblance is undeniable. The clearance is undeniable. The truth is suddenly, irrevocably undeniable. Davis, standing near the door, comes to attention and salutes. After a 3-second pause, 2 of the staff officers do the same. Then Jack, moving like he's in a dream, raises his hand in salute as well. Arya returns it, crisp and precise. At ease. Colonel Reed is already typing on her laptop, cross-referencing something. Admiral Hawthorne, the database shows Commander Thorne's status change from KIA to classified assignment occurred on November 3, 2022, 17 days after Barca. That change required approval from JSOC command level. Your signature is on the approval. Hawthorne is trapped, and he knows it. His options are evaporating like water on hot metal. The mission was compromised. We had to protect 16 families, Arya cuts in, voice hardening. 16 families spent 3 years believing their sons and daughters died because of intelligence failure. Tom Mercer's family, Sarah Chen's parents, Marcus Rodriguez's wife and 2 children. You let them grieve based on a lie because the truth would have exposed your negligence. She pulls up another file on the screen. UAV footage, grainy and harsh, dated October 17, 2022. The timestamp reads 23:47 hours. This is Barca, the building we were extracting assets from. You can see the team entering here. She points to figures moving through a doorway. And here's the position you assigned for overwatch and extraction support. The camera pans to an empty rooftop. No support arrived, no helicopter on station, no QRF on standby. You sent us in with a 30-minute window and no backup because officially we weren't there. The operation wasn't authorized through proper channels. You were running a side mission to gather intelligence for a political advantage, and when it went wrong, you erased everyone involved. The footage continues. An explosion lights up the screen, the first IED that collapsed part of the building. Figures scrambling, pulling people through rubble. Another explosion, bigger, right where the team had been staging casualties for evacuation. When the dust clears, the footage shows only debris and fire. 17 people entered that building, Arya says quietly. 1 person walked out, me. I made it to the extraction point where no extraction waited. I survived on fieldcraft and luck until I reached friendly lines 48 hours later. By then, Admiral Hawthorne had already filed the casualty reports listing everyone as KIA with remains unrecovered. He'd already sealed the operation file. He'd already started erasing evidence. She closes the footage, turns back to face the room. You want to know why I stayed quiet? Why I let you all think I was just a contractor, just an analyst, just someone who reads reports and makes suggestions? The room is silent, waiting. Justice is coming. Share this if you believe the truth always surfaces. Because I needed you comfortable, Arya says, each word deliberate. Comfortable enough to think the dead can't testify. You erased 16 operators, good men and women who served with honor to cover 1 illegal deployment. You told Jack his brother died from intel failure. Truth is, Tom died covering your retreat when you abandoned us. I wore civilian clothes so you'd forget I was watching. Every meeting, every decision, every lie, I cataloged. You wanted ghosts? I became one. I waited 3 years building evidence, documenting patterns, establishing proof that couldn't be dismissed as hearsay or vendetta. I needed you to feel safe enough to keep operating, keep making decisions, keep leaving evidence, and I needed one final piece. What piece? Colonel Reed asks. I needed him to try to silence me in front of witnesses. When Lieutenant Mercer struck me, Admiral Hawthorne had a choice: acknowledge my real credentials to defuse the situation or maintain the cover story and treat me as a fraud. He chose the cover story. He confiscated my contractor badge and ordered my removal. In doing so, he demonstrated he's still actively concealing the truth about Barca. That's ongoing obstruction of justice. That makes it current, not historical. Hawthorne's hands grip the edge of the table. This is entrapment. You manipulated. I gave you every opportunity to do the right thing, Arya interrupts. 3 years of opportunities. Every time we discussed operations similar to Barca, I flagged the risks. Every time you dismissed field intelligence, I documented it. I even gave you the chance today, when I warned about the Zulu corridor, when I told you sending Alpha Team that route would get people killed. You didn't listen because you never listen. You make decisions based on politics and convenience, and soldiers pay the price. She pulls up one more file, communications logs from this morning. 2 hours ago, while this meeting was happening, Alpha Team deployed to the Zulu corridor, against my recommendation, following your orders. She highlights a radio transmission, plays it over the room speakers. Alpha 1 to command, we have visual on bridge structure. Multiple choke points as briefed. Requesting permission to delay crossing for reconnaissance. A response comes through. Hawthorne's voice, clipped and impatient. Alpha 1, negative on delay. You have a 30-minute window. Proceed as planned. Another transmission, 9 minutes later. Alpha 1 to command. We have movement in structures on north side. Possible hostile. Static. Explosions in the background. Shouting. Then silence. Arya stops the playback. Alpha Team hit an ambush exactly where I predicted. 3 wounded, 1 critical. They're currently pinned down waiting for extraction that's delayed because the route back is compromised. They'll survive because I notified QRF about the real situation while you were focused on having me removed from the building. But they're wounded because you refused to listen to tactical analysis that contradicted your timeline. The room has gone from shocked to horrified. Jack looks like he might be sick. Colonel Reed is typing furiously, documenting everything. The staff officers are edging away from Hawthorne as if proximity might contaminate them. Here's what happens now, Arya says, voice carrying command authority that fills the room. Colonel Reed has the evidence. JAG will investigate. Admiral Hawthorne will be relieved of command pending court-martial proceedings. Every family who lost someone in Barca will be notified of the truth, and every operator whose name was erased will be restored to the record with full honors. You can't, Hawthorne starts. I already have. She picks up the black card from the table. At 0900 this morning, 3 hours before this meeting, I submitted formal charges through JSOC command. They've been pending, waiting for final evidence. The moment I uploaded those files, the investigation became official. You're done, Admiral. You've been done since the moment you signed my death certificate and thought ghosts couldn't fight back. Colonel Reed stands. Admiral Cole Hawthorne, by authority of the Judge Advocate General and pursuant to Article 32 of the Uniform Code of Military Justice, I am placing you under investigation for dereliction of duty, falsifying official records, obstruction of justice, and conduct unbecoming an officer. You will surrender your access credentials and remain available for questioning. Military police are en route to secure your office and communication devices. As if summoned by the words, 2 MPs enter through the main door. Different ones, senior enlisted with stone-serious expressions. They approach the Admiral, professional and implacable. Hawthorne looks around the room, searching for allies, for support, for anything. He finds only distance and judgment. Even his own staff officers won't meet his eyes. This is wrong, he says, voice breaking slightly. I made hard calls. Command requires hard calls. You can't crucify me for lying to families? Jack's voice cuts through, sharp with grief and fury. For letting my parents believe Tom died because someone screwed up intelligence, when really he died saving people from your mess? For 3 years of wondering if I could have done something different, pushed harder, asked better questions, when the truth was sealed in a file you controlled? He steps forward and there are tears on his face now, but his voice doesn't shake. You didn't make hard calls, sir. You made convenient calls. And when they went wrong, you made innocent people pay for your mistakes. That's not command, that's cowardice. The MPs have reached Hawthorne now. One of them holds out a hand. Your credentials, sir. Hawthorne removes his badge slowly, places it in the MP's hand like he's surrendering a piece of himself. His shoulders slump. Whatever fight he had left drains away, replaced by the hollow realization that everything he's built, everything he's protected, is collapsing around him. Escort the Admiral to a secure location, Colonel Reed orders. No communication devices, full documentation of the chain of custody. As the MPs guide Hawthorne toward the door, he stops beside Arya. For a moment, they stand face to face. The man who tried to erase her and the ghost who refused to stay buried. You destroyed my career, he says quietly. No, sir. Her voice is gentle, almost pitying. You destroyed 16 lives. I'm just making sure everyone knows about it." He has no response to that. The MPs guide him out. The crowd in the corridor parts to let them through, and the whispers that follow are damning and final. The war room settles into stunned silence. 42 people saw a contractor get punched this morning. Now they've seen that contractor revealed as a commander, watched an admiral get arrested, and witnessed 3 years of lies unravel in less than an hour. Davis approaches Arya, hand extended. She shakes it, the grip between them speaking of shared experience and mutual respect. "Commander, it's an honor." "Staff Sergeant, thank you for seeing what others missed." Combat breathing doesn't lie. He releases her hand. "What happens now?" "Now?" Arya looks around the room at the faces still processing everything they've seen. "Now we make sure it never happens again." She addresses the room at large. "Every person here witnessed something today. You saw command authority abused. You saw evidence suppressed. You saw someone try to hide the truth because acknowledging it would be inconvenient. That happens more often than anyone wants to admit. It happens in small ways and large ones. And it happens because people stay silent, because going along is easier than pushing back, because careers and reputations feel more important than accountability." She moves to the tactical display, brings up a new screen, a memorial page with 16 names and photos. These people didn't stay silent. They followed orders into an operation that shouldn't have existed. They trusted their command to support them. And when everything went wrong, they still did their jobs. Tom Mercer pulled 3 people out of a collapsing building while providing medical care under fire. Sarah Chen held a defensive position for 8 minutes with a compound fracture in her arm. Marcus Rodriguez carried 2 wounded teammates 30 meters through hostile fire before the secondary blast. Her voice catches slightly, just for a second before she steadies it. "They deserve better than being erased. They deserve their names on record, their families told the truth, their sacrifice acknowledged. Jag will handle the legal side. But I need you, all of you, to remember what you saw today. Remember that silence protects the wrong people. Remember that doing the right thing sometimes means risking comfort and career. Remember that ghosts can fight back if they're patient enough." Jack steps forward, still looking shattered but standing straighter than before. "What do you need from me?" "Testimony. When the court-martial happens, they'll need witness accounts, and I need you to contact the families. Tom's parents deserve to hear what really happened from someone who cares about him, not from a legal brief." "I can do that." He hesitates. "Commander, I'm sorry for hitting you, for doubting you, for—" "You defended your brother's honor," Arya interrupts. "That's not something to apologize for. You just had incomplete information. Now you have the truth. What you do with it matters more than what you did in ignorance." She turns back to Colonel Reed. "The files include recommendations for systemic reforms, oversight requirements for classified operations, mandatory 3-officer approval for records changes, protected channels for reporting command misconduct. None of it's revolutionary, it's just common sense implemented in policy." Reed nods. "I'll make sure it gets to the right committees. This is going to create waves, Commander. Pentagon level, congressional oversight level. You prepared for that?" "I've been preparing for 3 years." "Fair enough." Reed closes her laptop. "You'll need to provide formal testimony over the next several weeks. Expect depositions, interviews, possibly public hearings if it goes that route. Your operational status will be protected, but your identity as a witness won't be." "Understood." The room begins to empty as personnel file out, some still in shock, others already pulling out phones to make calls. The tactical display shows Alpha Team's position, wounded but stable, extraction in progress. The mission Arya had tried to prevent has ended in casualties, but not fatalities. Small mercy in a day full of hard truths. Within 24 hours, Admiral Hawthorne is formally charged with 7 counts, including dereliction of duty, falsifying records, and obstruction of justice. Within 48 hours, 3 additional officers connected to the Barca cover-up are suspended pending investigation. Within a week, the story breaks in military channels, carefully redacted for operational security, but devastating in its implications. 16 families receive notifications. 16 sets of records are corrected. 16 names are restored to honor rolls and memorial walls with full acknowledgement of their service and sacrifice. Tom Mercer's dog tag is placed in a memorial case at the SEAL Team headquarters, alongside a photograph and a citation describing his actions in Barca. His parents attend the ceremony. Jack stands beside them, finally able to tell them the truth about how their son died. Not from intelligence failure, but from courage and selflessness in impossible circumstances. Arya attends in full uniform for the first time in 3 years. SEAL trident on her chest, ribbons marking deployments and commendations, rank insignia no longer hidden. She places a challenge coin beside Tom's dog tag. His coin, the one he'd given her in those final seconds, returned to rest with his memory. "He told me to make it count," she says during the brief ceremony. "I hope I did." Jack approaches her afterward, his parents with him. The conversation is quiet, private, full of tears and gratitude, and the complicated emotions of grief acknowledged rather than suppressed. 3 weeks later, Aria is in her apartment, small, efficient, the walls bare except for a single photograph of her former team. She's reviewing reports on her laptop when her phone buzzes. Unknown number. She considers ignoring it, then swipes to answer. "Commander Thorne, Tower 4 sends regards." The voice is male, careful, giving nothing away in tone or accent. Barca wasn't the only sight. She sits up straighter, every nerve suddenly alert. "Explain. GPS coordinates incoming. 3 additional locations, same time frame as your operation. Similar patterns, similar erasures." A pause. "Someone wants you to know you weren't an isolated incident." The phone pings. A text message appears. 3 sets of coordinates, 2 in Syria, 1 in Iraq. Below them, a single line of text. "How many ghosts are left?" The call disconnects. Arya stares at the coordinates, mind already analyzing, calculating, recognizing the implications. If Barca wasn't unique, if there were other operations run off-book and covered up, then the corruption goes deeper than one admiral's negligence. It suggests a pattern, a system, a network of people making convenient decisions and erasing the evidence. She takes a screenshot of the coordinates, begins a new file on her laptop, marks it "Follow-up investigation, priority 1." Her phone buzzes again. This time it's an official email from JSOC. Subject line, "Assignment inquiry." She opens it. The message is brief, formal, offering her a position at JSOC headquarters. Desk assignment, advisory role, prestigious and safe. The kind of job that says, "You've done enough, time to step back and let others handle the hard parts." She closes the email without responding. Instead, she pulls up the coordinates again, cross-references them with deployment records she can access through official channels, finds gaps, inconsistencies, patterns that match what she'd found in Barca. 3 years of work uncovering one cover-up. How long to uncover 3 more? How many more beyond those? Her reflection stares back at her from the darkened laptop screen. The scar tissue near her temple, usually hidden by her hair, is visible in the dim light. Physical reminder of the IED blast that was supposed to kill her. Physical reminder of the price of survival when others didn't make it. She thinks about Tom Mercer's last words. "Make it count." She thinks about Davis saluting her in the war room, recognition and respect in the gesture. She thinks about Jack's face when he realized the truth, grief transforming into purpose. She thinks about the memorial ceremony, 16 names finally honored, 16 families finally given truth instead of lies. And she thinks about the question on her phone. How many ghosts are left? Arya closes the laptop, stands, moves to the window. The city spreads out below, lights against darkness. Thousands of people living their lives with no idea what happens in the shadows, what decisions get made in secure facilities, what prices get paid by soldiers who follow orders into situations that should never exist. She's tired. 3 years of patience, of careful documentation, of playing a role, of carrying the weight of dead teammates while pretending to be someone powerless and overlooked. It would be easy to accept the desk job, to step back, to say she's done enough. But the coordinates on her phone say there are more stories buried, more families living with lies, more ghosts who haven't been given the chance to speak. She returns to her laptop, opens a response to the JSOC email. "Thank you for the offer. I respectfully decline. Currently pursuing independent investigation, will notify when available for reassignment." She hits send before she can reconsider. Then she opens the new file, begins entering the coordinates, starts building another case. The work is familiar now, methodical, patient, thorough. She knows how to build evidence that can't be dismissed. She knows how to wait for the right moment. She knows how to be a ghost when necessary and a voice when it matters. Outside her window, the city continues its rhythm, unaware that somewhere in a small apartment, someone is counting again. Counting lies, counting cover-ups, counting the cost of command decisions made for convenience instead of honor, and preparing to make sure those counts, too, reach their reckoning. "Justice isn't loud," she murmurs to the empty room, echoing the thought that sustained her through 3 years of silence. It's patient. She glances at the coordinates one more time, then at the memorial photograph on her wall, her team, alive and laughing, before everything went wrong. I'm still counting, she tells them, and I've been very, very patient. The laptop screen glows in the darkness, waiting for her next move. And Arya Thorne, no longer dead, no longer hidden, settles in to begin the long work of uncovering the next buried truth. Because some ghosts don't rest until every story is told, every name is honored, and every convenient lie is finally dragged into the light.
Every soldier carries a story that few ever hear. Listen with your heart. Thank you for staying and watching. Subscribe to MVB Story for more.